Hello, everyone. I'm Petula Sankar Singh. I am the CEO and founder of Vision Ready. Welcome to our health and wellness series for January. We're very excited. A little bit about Vision Ready. We're a women-owned company, a global company with a mission to advance and develop excuse me, the growth of small businesses who are women, people of color, LGBTQ, veterans with intelligent technology. So, hoping to break down some barriers and level the playing field for these diverse companies. Today, for our health and wellness Fridays, and for the next 4 Fridays, we have the owner of Some of All Positive, which is Marina Keurig. Hi, Marina. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, and hi, everybody. It's so good to be here.
Yes, we're excited to learn some great active tools from you and just learn some great things as entrepreneurs. We go through our day and not even think about what self care and stress and doing better things for ourselves. So, looking forward to the 4 week series with you and today. So, today, Marina, tell us what you will be covering and talking about.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me and just shining the light on the importance of wellness and self care. I work with a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, and corporate professionals, so a lot of high achievers, super driven people.
Mhm.
And what often tends to happen is we start to put ourselves last behind all of our business goals, our sales goals, our big visions. So I'm always so appreciative of, other entrepreneurs and people who have an audience like you do who just shine a light on the importance of putting yourself first. And from there, all your other business goals get achieved when
Mhm.
we actually take care of ourselves fully and nourish ourselves in all the different ways. And when it comes to nourishment, sleep is super important and it's
Yes.
often overlooked. I think in so many different wellness practices, there's so many amazing, uh, you know, health coaches, nutrition, fitness, but I rarely encounter the sleep topic. I think it's something that a lot of people kind of shy away from
Yeah.
and don't talk about. And I think it's just one of the most important pillars of health. So today we'll be talking about how to optimize it.
Oh, fantastic. Can't wait to get all this juicy information.
Amazing. Yeah. So,
Mm.
overall, I wanted to start with sleep, but for the rest of January, also, we'll talk about just the different ways that stress impacts the physical body. So, we'll talk about desk yoga, ergonomic setup of your workspace, and some other additional things to really support everyone with where we are right now. I
Mhm.
think, especially having this series in January is so beneficial with the start of the new year. Many
Yeah.
of us are goal oriented right now, motivated
Mm.
by maybe the resolutions that we set or whatever that might look like as far as annual planning. And I always say that, one of the best things that I've ever done for myself and for my business actually is to put my self care goals as high up on the list and as visible as my business goals. So we
Yes.
have to make those things visible for ourselves. We have to check in on them. If we
Mm.
have coaches or mentors, we want to be checking in on how deeply we're taking care of ourselves as well. So, how much we're exercising, what it is that we're
Mhm.
eating. And I think the number of hours of sleep we get per night is, again, so important and often overlooked. And, I think we start to think that as entrepreneurs or as people who are just really motivated and want to get so much done, that the time we spend asleep is kind of something that we should minimize as much as possible because it's not productive.
Mhm.
And it's actually the complete opposite of that. So the more that we're able to give ourselves quality sleep that our body needs, the more
Mhm.
productive we are during the day. And something really fascinating, just to kind of jump into this topic, is that
Yes.
we spend a third of our life asleep. So that's about
Wow.
25 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we spend 25 years asleep. And it's really interesting to just kind of look at your day and, these small chunks of time that we take for different things. How much time do you spend on making your morning cup of coffee, whatever that might look like? Think
Mhm.
about how much that adds up over a lifetime. And so, yeah, when I first heard that statistic, we never think about it that way. We just think about
Oh.
it as something that, happens between the hours of, 10 and 8, whatever that might look like. But it's actually time that we can optimize. It's super important for everything that's going on in the body when we're asleep. And what I also always say is that your day starts the night before. So, as far as how we feel in the morning and throughout the rest of the day, especially
Mhm.
if you have important meetings, presentations, or just work
Yeah.
that needs to be done and you want to get into that flow state, it's really hard to get into that place. You can, of course, have supplements and,
Yeah.
caffeine and all of these different
Mhm.
things that kind of get us into that energized and productive state. But really focusing on starting that day the night before,
Mhm.
and setting the stage for how the rest of the day is going to go, that all starts in the evening. So, super important. And
Wow.
I'm so passionate about this topic.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question. So for me, if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, I am not good the next day. So what are your thoughts on how much sleep is needed? Um, for most people, is there a difference between men and women? That type of thing.
Yeah. So, the work of Dr. Michael Bruce is something that I've been following for the past 5 years.
Mhm.
For those who aren't familiar with him yet, I would say definitely get familiar with him, because this is a really common question of, well, how much sleep do we really need? And what's often thrown out is, 7.5, 8 hours.
Mhm.
That is the case for a large majority of the population. So about 50% of us, that's kind of where that rule of thumb comes. So
Okay.
if we're just, throwing out a number, that's what's most often referred to. But some of us have natural variations in how much sleep we need. And the
Mhm.
way to find out, outside of going through a formal sleep study,
Yeah.
which sometimes some of us who have disturbed sleep maybe want to take on,
Mhm.
maybe that's like a once in a lifetime or a couple times in your lifetime opportunity to actually go in, study how you're sleeping in
Mhm.
a more like a laboratory setting. Outside of that, which is probably not accessible to many of us, there's a quiz that you can take.
Oh,
So the
I think
test
that's
is, yeah, he's put it together. Again, Michael Bruce,
mhm.
he's also an
Mhm.
author.
Mhm.
And the book is called The Power of When, and it has a quiz and an online component. So you can go to thepowerofwhen.com,
Mhm.
and that has been just one of the most important things as far as learning what works for you.
Mhm.
And I'm a huge believer in really
Mhm.
giving more targeted advice to people I work with. So
Mhm.
I work in the area of stress. So there we really want to understand, as much as, these general rules of thumb can be helpful, we
Yeah.
really want to understand, you specifically, what your lifestyle looks like, what your body needs, and the inputs that are going to be the most helpful to you. So, finding out what your ideal sleeping window is one of the most important things you will ever do for your health, I think. And so, yeah, just simply thepowerofwhen.com. The quiz will take you maybe 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Yes, it is subjective, so maybe you want to take it a couple times over the course of a couple months.
Mhm.
But you really will see some themes emerge. And what this quiz reveals, and his book and his work, is it categorizes us into four different categories according to our ideal sleep wake cycle.
Mm.
So, right now, this area is being studied more and more. It's called chronobiology, and that's the study of circadian rhythms in people and in nature. So, we see circadian rhythms in pretty much everything in nature, in plants, in animals, in the way that crops grow, so many different things. You can think of a flower blooming, so many different things work on a very specific rhythm, and humans are no different. So we have a sleep wake cycle that follows the sun, right? It's completely dictated by the light pattern that's
Mhm.
in our surroundings. That's why we have fluctuations that happen, right? Jet lag could be
Yes.
a result of, having all of a sudden being on a completely different light pattern that
Mhm.
you put yourself into when you travel. So, our innate biological clock. It's something that kind of is predetermined at birth, but it does change throughout our life. So think about it too, right? When we're babies, we have very specific sleep needs,
Mm-hmm.
all the way to when we're teenagers to when we're adults. So we'll spend a majority of our life in this one set long window of this one chronotype that we're in, which is innate to us, something that
Yeah.
we're born with. And then the sleeping pattern will change again when we age. So needing less sleep as we grow into old age. But that majority of our life is spent in one of these four different chronotypes. And that's what you'll find out through the quiz. And so the chronotypes are bear, lion, wolf, and dolphin. And so the way that he organized the chronotypes is by finding animals in nature that
Mm.
are most closely exemplifying that sleep wake
Organized
pattern.
types is by finding animals in nature
Oops,
that are
sorry.
most
No, that's okay. um, and
Okay.
so I think it's super helpful for all of us to first just get an understanding of which one of the four types we are. And just to quickly highlight each one, because there's so much information on each one, but just to quickly give everyone an understanding if you're like, oh, which one might I be? So, bear, that's who I am. And that's that 50% of really the world population. This is someone who goes to sleep well around 10 p.m., wakes up around 7 a.m. So, really following kind of the standard schedule of society, right? We eat breakfast around 9 a.m., lunch around noon, and then our energy slowly kind of declines and we're ready to go to sleep by around 10 or 11 p.m. So, bears are. Again, this is because bears are about 50% of the world population. That schedule that we all follow, as far
Mhm.
as the 9 to 5 workday, when we have dinner time, it's kind of accommodating the bear chronotype,
Yeah,
which is really interesting. So then
it
this
is.
is.
Not to interrupt, really
Mhm.
quick.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
what do you think about those who are not the norm? That don't follow those schedule? For instance,
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't yeah,
And
I'm
that's what's so
yeah,
interesting to learn. It's like society can't accommodate everyone on that
yeah,
large scale,
yeah.
right? But it's actually really useful for those of us who are entrepreneurs and make our own schedule. So I feel like the corporate world, that 9 to 5 set schedule, lunch around noon or one, again, that really fits that bear chronotype because they
Yes,
have steady energy throughout that window of time.
yes.
They are expected to be productive, 9 or
Mhm.
10 a.m., maintain that productivity up to 5 p.m., and then gradually decline. That's not the case for wolves or dolphins, really. And lions
Yes.
are the early birds.
Mhm.
And so that's where learning your chronotype as much as possible, if you are someone who has to work that 9 to 5 schedule, even as
Mhm.
an entrepreneur, maybe you have a team and you all are expected to work during the set window of time. Um, Knowing what can be modified and how you can better support yourself in your sleep wake cycle and when you feel the most energy, and tailoring your work schedule around that. So, for some of us, our most productive hours are, first thing in the morning, but for others, it's later in the afternoon. So, for some of us, productivity starts around 5 p.m. That's the lions, or sorry, the wolves. And so this is where the chronotype is one of the most important pieces of information, right? We get our blood work done, we get our annual physicals, but we
Yes.
rarely pay attention to when do I have the most energy throughout the day? And do I
Mm.
actually optimize my schedule for that? Do I always, just because I feel like I should, do
Yeah.
I always have all my meetings between 9 and noon when if I can switch that so that my most important, most meetings where I need to be the most energized and alert and thinking critically, maybe I can move those to be between 3 and 6. Maybe that's
Right.
something that my team or my work will allow me to actually do.
Mhm.
Because without knowing this information and actually sitting with it and kind of fine tuning, okay, what might my chronotype be? Let me actually find out. Without it, we just think that there's something wrong with us. We see, our team member or someone else that we know, our friend, our partner who shares a home with us, we see them waking up at 6 a.m., working out, getting so much done before 10 a.m. And here we are waking up, and it takes us until 11 to even feel like we can carry out a conversation. That's that not understanding our chronotype. And if you feel that way for a majority of your adulthood, it's there's probably nothing wrong with you. It's probably just your chronotype, your natural biology that's asking you for a shift in how you structure your day. So hopefully that
Okay.
answers your question. I'm
Yeah.
curious what chronotype you think you might be as well.
I know I'm gonna have to take the test, but,
Yeah.
for me, I'm like a late night type person. Sometimes, like, my best thinking, like, I'm always thinking, but like 10, 11, I'm like writing notes. I'm like, "Oh, I gotta do this," and I'm up to like 1 in the morning, right? And
Mhm.
typically I get up about 9, but I don't normally eat something till about noon, 1 o'clock maybe. The first thing I do is either get some coffee or tea in the morning. I drink a green smoothie, that kind of thing. And then by like 1, 2, I'm like starving,
Mhm.
I do feel like by 3, I'm kinda like, cause then, I start and I'm just busy, I'm like going, and then by 3, I kinda need to like take a moment and pull back. So
Mhm.
like from 3 to 4 or 5, I'm like needing time in between there. So that's what I kinda see for myself, and then I'll start back at like 5 on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, for those listening, so bear, again, the 9 to
Mhm.
5 standard sleeping schedule. Lions are the early birds, so typically rise around 5 a.m., and then
Yes.
they're really out of commission completely by like 10 p.m. So don't even
Um,
try.
yeah.
They're really, getting to bed or already half asleep by 10
Mhm.
p.m. Then we have the wolves. So that's someone who is a really, the opposite of early bird. So they'll sleep in until 9 or 10
Mhm.
if you let them, but then their productivity hours are, maybe up until midnight is when they
Mhm.
start to want to go to sleep naturally. And then dolphins are pretty unique. This is the smallest segment of the population. These
Mhm.
are the more kind of disturbed sleepers. Maybe 6 hours a night is all that they really feel like they can get on a
Mm.
regular basis. They also wake up pretty early and fall asleep pretty late. So the reason why this is important is that your chronotype, it dictates so much more than just your sleep wake cycle. So when you feel tired and when you feel alert and energized, it also dictates your hunger. So you highlighted that, right? So
Mhm.
when we want to eat, this also plays a role in the meals that we have during the day. It's like
Yes.
if you don't want to have breakfast at 8 a.m., but you feel like you've heard that that's best for everyone and everyone should, and breakfast is the most important meal of the day,
Mhm.
well, that's not the case for dolphins and wolves. So, why force it, right? Why force
Mhm.
yourself to have a meal when you don't want it naturally? So,
Yeah.
it dictates that. Again, it dictates our energy. So, when we're most likely to perform better on tests, be more alert to give a presentation. All of
Right.
these things play a part
Mhm.
in it, as well as workout windows of time. Same
Mm.
exact thing. I feel like I should get my workout done in the morning. Well, again, maybe not the case for you. Maybe your
Right.
workout at 4 p.m. is actually going to be the best one for you. So,
Yeah. It's very interesting, and I think people should take the test and figure out where they're at. I'm probably like the wolf, from what I'm thinking, from what
yeah.
I've, learned from you today, so that's amazing. The people who get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, I'm kinda like, "I don't know how you do it, but good for you." Are you one of
Yeah.
those, Marina?
I'm not, no. And something that's interesting that Dr. Bruce highlights is we all have lion envy because the other thing about lions, so the early birds, is they're naturally really driven, they're motivated, they have an easy job at getting tasks done. And, bears, which is me, that 50%, the 9 to 5 worker,
Mhm.
can feel envious because it does take us a little bit longer to come out of sleep and feel alert. And so we see these go-getters who get their workout done at 5 a.m., right? I've
Yeah.
lived with, now that I know, I've lived with some lions in the past who wake up at 4:30 and have worked out by 6 and are ready to just start the day. And so we do get envious of some of those people, but there's trade-offs with each chronotype.
Yeah.
There's benefits and there's downsides. So in the case of the lions, their energy is really depleted by 9 p.m., 9 or 10 p.m. So when we
Mhm.
think about social gatherings, outings, time spent with
Yeah.
friends, weddings, things like that, lions will tend to have a really hard time because
Mhm.
their energy is so depleted at that point. Whereas bears and, of course, wolves will keep going and going. So,
Exactly.
yeah, there's good and bad things about each one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I have tried to work out, in the early because I was, I joined like a 5K and I had to be up. And it's funny because although it took me a minute and I'm just like, oh my goodness, why am I up so early? Why am I here? And working out actually that early and getting it over actually felt good. But but I
Mhm.
just can't because I have that late night habit, which
Yeah,
it works for me though, I feel like
yeah.
it works for me. So that's very interesting. So what are your thoughts with getting better sleep? Like what helps outside of,
Mhm.
um well, people taking this test to figure out where they
Yeah.
fall. Do you promote like maybe meditation, some physical activity, so like e- even if it's something light, like what in your experience has helped people get more of a restful sleep?
Yeah, definitely. So, no matter which type you are, if we talk about what happens in the 2 hours leading up to sleep, that's one of the most important windows of
Mm.
time to really prime yourself for quality sleep. So, whether that begins at 8 p.m. to get ready
Mhm.
for bed at 10 p.m., or whether it begins at 10 p.m. to get ready for a midnight sleep time,
Yeah.
those 2 hours are really important. And so, one of the things that really affects our chronotype and really has a chance to throw it off is light. So, what we want to do is no matter again when you wake up,
Yeah.
but that natural window of time when you wake up, whether it's 6, whether it's 8 or 9, the first thing that you want to happen is you want light to hit your eyes.
Mhm.
And we may have heard of this. And of course, this is challenging with daylight savings, or
Yeah.
if we're in a place that, maybe has a really short window of light, depending on where you are in the world. But as much as we can, and there's lamps that we could buy that kind of mirror a dusk and dawn.
Mhm.
But as much as we can, if we have access to natural light and sunlight, we want the light to hit our eyes so that we can start to feel energized and so that
Mhm.
we can maintain that energy throughout the day. Because where that energy comes from, where the feeling of sleepiness or being energized comes from, is our hormones. And they're being
Mhm.
produced in the background, by our mind body connection. One of the things that influences the production of those hormones is our access to light. So, right
Mhm.
now, where I'm at is noon. There's ample light around me. And so my body is producing hormones that are keeping me energized. Now, as
Oh.
soon as dusk starts to set in, as soon as it becomes dark around me, my production of melatonin is going to rise. Melatonin is the hormone that's
Mhm.
responsible for us feeling sleepy. That's why sometimes we might
Mhm.
hear, if you're jet lagged or if you're traveling or if you're just a disturbed sleeper, we may take melatonin externally. So, exogenous melatonin is something that we can supplement with, but we produce natural melatonin ourselves. So, that's what starts to happen when dusk again and sunset happens, is our melatonin starts to rise and we start to feel more sleepy. So,
Mhm.
by the time, again, it's 8, 9 p.m. in most time zones, we're starting to feel that sleepiness effect. And as soon
Mhm.
as that happens, what we want to do is we want to preserve that. We want to minimize anything that's going to disturb that because, again, that it is very easily disrupted. So if
Mhm.
it's 9 p.m., but we're sitting in front of a laptop and it's shining that light, it's
Mhm.
hitting our retina. It's
Yeah.
actually telling our body that it's still time to keep producing energy. It's still time
Mm.
to keep producing serotonin, which is going to keep us alert and energized. And so that's where there's this really important window of time where melatonin is starting to rise, and we want to ride that wave all the way into quality sleep. We
Mhm.
don't want to disrupt it again with a Kindle, with a phone in our face, right, at 10 p.m., because as soon as we kind of miss that window, and
Mhm.
I'm sure some of us have felt that before, where we kind of get a second wind, that
Mhm.
second wind is really just our body saying, it feels like we need to keep working. So we're going to stop the
Mm.
production of melatonin. We missed that window of time. And now it's, midnight and 1 a.m., and we're having a
Yes.
hard time falling asleep. So as much as we can, what's going to support us in preserving that sleepy window of time, we want to keep that going, is we want to, and I know this is such hard advice for so many of us, but limiting technology in the nighttime. And now we know why, right? From a hormonal standpoint, it's
Yeah.
actually helping our body produce more energy.
Mhm.
And if we are still going to be working, just making sure that, there's dim lights around us and that we turn off the blue light on our technology. So on Apple products, there's night shift mode that you
Mhm.
can activate. You can do it on your MacBook, your laptop. I believe all products actually should come with this setting at this point.
I think so,
Um, yeah, so that we can just naturally, what tends to happen is,
yeah.
by 5 p.m., that light starts to dim a little bit.
Mhm.
So it's not at least blue light that we're
Mhm.
consuming, because blue light is that really important light for energy, for daytime. Just in your mind, you can say like blue light equals daytime is
Yeah.
how your body is perceiving it. So as long as it's more gentle light, it's going to switch to more yellow tones. If you've tried this before and maybe your technology doesn't support it for a laptop, there is a
Mhm.
plugin that you can download. It's called Flux, so
Mm.
f.lux. You
Okay.
can just Google that. It's a plugin for your desktop technology, and it's going to dim that light for
Okay.
you according to your time zone.
Mhm.
So that's what we want to preserve is, 6 to 7 p.m., that natural, if we're looking out where we are in the world, if it's sunset, our
Yeah.
technology should reflect that.
Yes.
So,
That's great, great information because I know a lot of us are in bed with our cell phones.
mhm, yeah.
Looking through Facebook or, like and people call that their downtime, but they don't know it's affecting their sleep and why they can't go to sleep and have a restful sleep. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Marina, for
Mm,
sharing all these great tidbits and information. Very, very great stuff for our entrepreneurs who's listening and who will do a replay of the video. We will be posting the video today as well as we'll share some of the information, the links in the comments that
mhm.
Marina had mentioned today about microbrews, as well as the flux for your
Yeah.
to dim your lights. So just remember, everyone, it's really, really important to get a well rested sleep. It helps your day. It helps you as an entrepreneur, and you can only make better decisions, I feel, with having better rest and be your best self. So next week, we won't actually be live. We'll be doing posting a video same time that Marina will be doing on desk yoga sessions. So giving you guys, we all are working from home remotely, at our desk. So take a little time for yourself every day to implement these. And you guys are going to learn these tips next week, Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern as well. And for those of you who joined us live, thank you so much. And thank you for continuing to support us and our Wellness Fridays, as well as have an amazing weekend. And Marina, would you like to say anything before we close out?
Yeah, just that, continue to lean into the importance of sleep along with all the wellness topics. But again, I think sleep is so often overlooked.
It
So, for those of you who watch this, obviously this piqued your interest. So, just be more mindful of those late evening hours, find out your chronotype, and of course, practice, that usual self care that we always recommend of just starting to wind down, turn off as much as possible before bedtime so that you don't jolt yourself into more energy, so that you can start the next day on the right foot.
Yes.
And I'll actually be running a sleep challenge, so a 7-day better sleep challenge later in
Oh,
January. So I haven't set the date yet, but for anyone who's interested, you can always just connect with me on LinkedIn, wherever my name appears. That's my name
yeah.
on LinkedIn. So yeah, and I'll share more information there.
All
But so
right.
excited to be able to share this.
Yes, me too. I learned some things tonight. I mean, today. I feel like it's night already. But again, thank you, everyone, and stay safe and have an amazing weekend. And remember, self care is important for your well being. Take care.